Hey, it's Drybear. And next weekend is a lucky one because we're actually gaining access to the Battlefield 6 open beta. It's going to be a 2-weekend beta starting with next weekend and then following with the weekend after. So if you are interested in the latest installment in the Battlefield franchise, then this is going to be your opportunity to give it a try. Now, the challenge with Battlefield and really all of these very seasonal FPS games and TPS games is that they just end up popping up and then fizzling away very quickly. And also, we kind of grew up, a lot of us grew up with some of these games as they've been long-standing IPs that have been regenerated, refreshed, and re-released over the years. But Battlefield was one of the series that I think probably held the strongest without as much variation. Call of Duty, especially since the fact that it started building with multiple studios, sometimes 3 or 4 studios making different Call of Duties at once, became very varied, whereas Battlefield kind of specialized in that massive map, vehicle-focused, lots of exploration, team-based, squad-based gameplay that a lot of people love. The problem is, ever since Battlefield 4, there's been some mixed reactions on the directions they've been taking the franchise, and a lot of people struggled with or just outright hated Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042. But what's cool about Battlefield 6 is it seems like they kind of got the message this time around, that people weren't really jiving with the direction they were going, and people really liked kind of, things started with Battlefield 1942. Remember playing the bejesus out of that. We got Vietnam and we got Battlefield 4 and all these different titles coming out that people really enjoyed. And I think even just watching all the reveals and the discussions around Battlefield 6, it feels like it's a facelifted Battlefield 4. The maps are coming back. A lot of our favorite areas are returning. The class system is back in the game again, so you can play the 4 different classes like we used to, and they kind of just double down on what was the original formula. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, hey, you should trust every new release that comes out, but this one actually looks like it could be an awesome, and God, just smite me in my place for saying this, but it feels like it's a return to form. The question you're asking is, how do I get into the Battlefield 6 open beta? What are the time frames for it, and what are the restrictions and limitations that I need to know about? So I've got you covered in today's video. The open beta has technically 3 different stages to it. So the dates are as follows. There is going to be a weekend that starts technically on August 7th next week and runs until August 10th. Then there is a break where the servers will go offline, and then there is another beta weekend following that from August 14th to August 17th. But as is with these large releases, there's usually a bunch of caveats and restrictions that go along with it. So what they're doing is they're splitting the open beta weekend, the first one next week, into 2 different parts. An early access part, which you need to be granted access into, and then a free play part where anyone can join in on it. And then the final second weekend is going to be open play for everybody. So that means Thursday and Friday next week, you need to have an early access code from the several different sources that it comes from, or you just need to wait until August 9th, which is going to be Saturday. That Saturday and that Sunday, you will be able to play for free on any of the platforms available, which includes console, luckily. And then you have another play session the following weekend, with the full weekend this time, August 14th to August 17th. For platforms, you're looking at PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, so current gen consoles only. And then you have PC with several different apps. They recommend playing on their app, obviously, so you want to play on the EA Play app, or you can do Epic Games or Steam if you want. I'm sure a lot of people will kind of pick their favorite platform they launch there, and there are some benefits to doing EA app, but I know a lot of people tend to avoid some of especially like EA and Ubisoft apps, which tend to be kind of unruly in a lot of cases. And they're including a preload option for you for the beta weekend, which is kind of unusual. We don't get those too often, which is really cool. So you can preload the open beta weekend download starting August 4th. So in 2 days here, you'll be able to grab that starting in the morning to start downloading. The total game download is only 75 gigs. And I know for some people that is a little bit much, especially if you're doing like a extra external on your console or something like that. But honestly, given how big the game files have been getting over the years, some games being 120 to 200 gigs on launch, this game being 75 is actually kind of a nice reprieve from that trend. Now, to the point of early access, because I know people are asking about that. They want to play the whole weekend this coming weekend to be able to enjoy the beta for as long as possible. However, I regret to inform you that 2 out of the 3 methods for obtaining early access keys is kind of moot at this point. So your first opportunity to get a key for early access was to have already signed up for Battlefield Labs prior to July 31st. So you just missed it by like 2 days if you haven't signed up already. If you did sign up for Battlefield Labs prior to that, check your account. You might actually just have access to early access already. So they did that as kind of like a promotion to get people over to Battlefield Labs. So they get you signed up and, you know, get you kind of indoctrinated in their process. The second option would be to watch streamers yesterday. So they had their big multiplayer gameplay reveal just a day ago. And with that reveal, if you watched on Twitch, you would get a drop that as long as you watch for an hour, you get an early access code. So if you didn't watch that, that ran for a little bit longer, but ended this morning, which means you can no longer watch Twitch streamers that are streaming Battlefield 6 and get the code from them. The drops seem to be inactive at this time, which means there's only one remaining way as of right now, unless you happen to get a giveaway code or there's some kind of like off-label or offline way to get codes right now. And that would be to sign up for the EA Play Pro subscription on their launcher. So if you want to, you can pay out for the EA Pro subscription that will give you automatically access to the early access, the 2 days early access to the open beta. You know, if someone who's just kind of interested, you know, you don't really mind losing the 2 extra days, doesn't really matter that much. It just means that your open beta will start on August 9th and run through the 10th, and then you'll have a second open beta, which will be a full 4 days from August 14th to August 17th. And before your FOMO gets all in a bunch, just remember that, again, August 9th in the morning, so halfway through the first weekend, everyone will gain access, whether you have a code or not, on all platforms, PlayStation and Xbox current gen only, as well as PC on the 3 different browsers or launchers that you have the option to join in on. So available for everyone starting August 9th and 10th, and then again on August 14th through August 17th, you'll be able to gain access to that beta again. Now, what's cool about Battlefield 6 is it is returning to the class-based system from earlier Battlefields. To reference, you have 4 different classes you'll be choosing from. You have Recon, Support, Assault, and finally Engineer that all had different purposes. Assault is going to be your main, like, surging forward attacking character. One of their perks allows them to carry 2 primary weapons. So if you wanted to, you can carry like a machine gun and then have a shotgun in your offhand and allow you to swap between those and use those as well. You have a personal stim that allows you to adrenaline shot through advances and move forward. And they just kind of kick a lot of butt and push a lot of front lines. Like, they're really good at creating front lines for their team, which is really cool. The second class that you'll want to be aware of is going to be Engineer. And because Battlefield is very focused on vehicle-based combat, planes, tanks, jeeps, the like, you want to have an engineer on your team because they're the only ones that have a satchel full of mines and rockets that they can use to destroy enemy tanks, destroy enemy encampments when people put down machine gun placements. You want to be able to have an engineer that can handle that, and the engineer is actually the only one that can actually repair friendly encampments and vehicles. The support is your medic, your battle medic, your field medic. They do have a machine gun, which means they're quite formidable, but they also have the ability to revive, heal, and support their team in various ways that is very awesome. They can also deploy things like a wall or an MG encampment and help set things up for their team, so they're kind of like the backbone of the team in a lot of ways. Lastly is Recon, your sniper rifle class. These are the ghillie suit bearers that sit on the edge of the battle trying to pick people off, and one good snipe can make a big difference. They also have placeables, you know, drones that can set up strikes and things like that, and some really cool powers, and of course the famous C4 that allow them to destroy vehicles up close. Though not quite as safe as an engineer would, it does kind of give you that option to play around with space and information in a true recon sense. The game will sport 9 full maps on launch, and those maps are all very large by default, and then depending on what mode you're playing when you land on the map, it will end up being a different section of it, right? There's smaller King of the Hill capture point nodes and modes for that. There's team deathmatch modes. There's team surging modes that build up to different encounters up until a final encounter at a very specific location, which can be randomized. And so depending on what mode you're queuing for and what you end up in, your experience might vary depending on the map you're on. But they're also bringing back several of the very beloved maps from earlier on, Operation Firestorm, Metro, Kazakhstan, Gibraltar. All of these maps are making a return in Battlefield 6, and you'll recognize a lot of the areas as well, though the fidelity is going to be much higher based on what you're looking at. They also extended out and improved a lot of the vehicles. Based on what we've seen here, it does seem like they work quite well. They even have this new feature, like you see on screen, where allies can jump and hang on a vehicle. Even if there are no open seats for them to sit in, they can just kind of latch on and hold on and then be pulled along. This is great because it means you don't have to walk and you can kind of ferry your way into the battlefield, but it also means you're at risk because if that tank or jeep or vehicle rolls over a claymore or gets blown up by an engineer, you're going to be going along with it. They also said they've greatly improved their destruction system, which they show off here. Automated destruction is actually quite hard to make it look very real, and so you probably will see some of these breakpoints and where the parts of the building collapse, but in general I would say this is actually a pretty good implementation from what they've shown us. They say that you can take certain objects like sledgehammers, you can drive vehicles into support beams, you can shoot rockets at overhangs and destroy parts of buildings, and this creates a very dynamic entry sense to how you enter it. It's something that I think, you know, games like Rainbow Six Siege do very well, to have destructible environments where you can create your own angles of attack, your own firing angles, to kind of create, you know, dynamic entry points or just really fun, various encounters that you can have with other players inside of urban environments, which is really cool. Combine this with the fact that you can take out machine gun encampments, place them down wherever you want, and create new firing angles or flanks on enemies, I think would create a really awesome aspect that might actually blend some of the bigger modes for Battlefield 6 into the smaller modes where you're focused on smaller based squad combat without the vehicles being involved as much. So kind of like an interesting mixture between what we know about Battlefield and what of, you know, some of the evolutions we've seen from some of their competitors like Call of Duty. So with the open beta on the eve of the end of this weekend going into next weekend, let me know what you're thinking about Battlefield 6. Are you someone who's been playing Battlefield 6 in the past and are excited about this one? Are you cautiously optimistic, or are you someone that just think it doesn't look that good? You're not all that excited about it, or maybe it's just not in your wheelhouse. Let me know in the comments down below where your head is at with Battlefield 6, and if you are going to be playing this weekend or next weekend, what class are you looking to play? If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.